Tony, can you hear me?
There we are.
Ah, awesome.
Sorry, that took a little bit there.
Oh, you're good. You're good. How are you?
I'm well. How are you guys?
Good.
Doing pretty
Good.
well.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you joining. I know that work is crazy, and I know your work schedule especially. It seemed like you work all hours, so thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, we really appreciate this, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Not a problem. I'm just going to
Cool.
pile all my stuff on Nick next week. So
Right. Right. I have to figure out how to, work with APIs and all that good stuff. Learn C# within the next week.
you got this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So just to kind of give you guys the format, we're going to go ahead and start, but essentially it's just going to be like a Q&A type session. So we've got some questions prepared, and we'll go through them. We shouldn't take the whole time. We have an hour essentially to do this. We don't have to go the whole hour. We can finish whenever, but we'll go through the questions, and at the end, if we have time, we'll do like an audience Q&A, and that's our members in the audience, if they want to ask anything, type your questions in the chat, and then we'll ask them at the end. You can do it throughout the meeting if you want. But yeah, that's going to be the general format of this. We are recording it, so we'll post it to our YouTube channel afterwards. So if anybody that wasn't able to be here, they can definitely come and check it out. So with that said, I'll start with an introduction, just in case you missed the first meeting, you weren't here, and you didn't miss the recording. My name is Nick Norris. I am a senior studying software design and development. This is my last year. I am a senior. I'm so close to being done. If I could just finish, that would be great. I've been interning in Navy Federal for about a year and 3 months now, I think. And that's how I know Tony. He worked on the same team that I do. So I was able to use those connections to pull him into this meeting. I actually just got offered a full-time job. I don't know if I don't know what the situation or what the details are yet, but I think I will be working Navy Federal full-time. So I'm excited about that. And that's kind of my story. And I'll pass it over to Liam if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Liam Hilton Green. I'm also a senior studying software design development. I currently work as a research assistant on campus. We're working on the VIPRA project, which is basically a tool to help researchers simulate policies that can stop the spread of diseases like COVID. And currently job hunting, looking for possible summer internships or full-time careers. That's basically my story right there.
Okay. Brandon, are you around, or are you?
Yeah,
It looks like you're unmuted. Okay, cool.
So I'm Brandon Mazur, treasurer for the ACM, also senior computer scientist, also working as a research assistant to Dr. Eddie, though for a different project than Liam. Sorry about no webcam. I actually had to loan mine out to someone for tonight, unfortunately, but at least here in spirit. And just want to say thanks again, Tony, for being able to join us.
Cool. Yeah. So with that said, Tony, if you just want to give a brief introduction, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, my name's Tony. Well, my real name's Antonio, but I go by Tony. Yeah, I graduated from WF about a year and a half ago, I think. Yeah, year and a half ago. Started working at Navy Federal back in 2008, 2019. I was still an intern when I started working there, just like Nick, and eventually went full-time there. Yeah, that's about me. I graduated with I think they changed the role now, software development, and it's completely different. I know at UWF. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
yeah,
essentially graduate. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you were software engineering, and now it's software development, design and development. I think is how they changed it.
So I graduated with a software engineering degree. I'm glad they got rid of all the DS classes. So now it's a little easier for software developers to actually, graduate software developing. But yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, let me share my screen and get started. Oh, before actually I said we were going to start. One thing I did want to mention was our Officer applications are open. We are looking for people to join. We'll drop this link in the Discord chat. after this meeting. But if you're interested, if you think you have something to contribute to ACM, if you have an idea, a vision, whatever it is, if you just want to have a good time, please apply. We're looking for preferably people graduating in 2022, but you know,
We're flexible with that.
We're flexible, exactly. So I'm going to start with that. Like I said, we will drop this link in the Discord if you're interested afterwards. So let me just go to our.
It's a really good way to build leadership skills and put something nice on your resume.
Absolutely. Okay, so screen share one more time. Okay, can you guys see that? We're starting at the beginning. Okay, yeah, so our Q&A session, this is kind of where we should have started, I guess, is, you know, Tony's picture, his nice professional picture there, software developer at Navy Federal. It's a good picture, it's a good picture, so. All right, we're gonna go right into it. So you mentioned that you had been working at Navy Federal for about a year. How long have you been like a developer in general? Like how long have you been coding?
So I didn't really get into coding till I was like, I did random stuff when I was like in high school, like kind of like prank stuff. Like I'd literally shut down like people's computers to make like a fake virus. Never really thought about like actual like programming or developing. I was actually going to be an accountant while I was going to be med school. Then I went to accountant. And I realized I did not want to do either one of those for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So I was graduating, and around 17 years old, I started just kind of picked up on it. I already knew HTML at that time. Didn't know much about like CSS, you know, pretty much front end stuff. I just kind of started messing around, made like random little teeny websites. I mean, I was proud of my Hello World, you know, that would do really small stuff.
Yeah.
But after that, I immediately went into college, and I immediately started studying software developing, essentially. And that's it. That's pretty much, so I'd say about 6 years now, 7 years.
Yeah.
Professionally, I'd say about 3, 4. And then of course in Navy Federal, I've been working here for 2 years. So about 2 years professionally, but genuinely developing, I'd say about 4 years.
Okay, cool. So you were thinking about going med school originally?
Yeah, I was going to be a cardiothoracic surgeon. And then I realized that involved about 14 years of my life. So loved it, just didn't love it that much.
Sure, I get that. Okay. Oops. Okay, and just give us a rundown of what your day-to-day schedule is like as a developer, like what you go through from start to finish.
Sure, yeah. So usually I wake up every day about 7 o'clock. At 7:30 we have a Scrum meeting, so I'm usually on that. Right after that, I usually look at our logs for our systems just to make sure everything's up and running, nothing's crazy. We do have a webhook into our system, so if anything goes wrong, we kind of get a notification. So if anything throughout the night comes in, you know, some sort of exception, I usually go into the logs just to kind of dig into it, see what we can do to improve it or make it better, or, you know, if it's our fault or something else is breaking down. After that, I'm usually in about 3 to 5 meetings, Scrum meetings. And then I usually pair program recently right now because I'm working on a bigger project with a fellow developer, and it usually involves thinking of at least 4 different projects and how we need to improve on that on our backed up project queue as well. But yeah, usually wake up, I look up all our systems, look at all our logs and all that good stuff. I usually program it for about 3 hours in the morning, meetings, some more developing, and then some more meetings. Then I'm a workaholic, so I usually work at night.
I usually see your little WebEx thing green through all hours of the day. So
that's about right.
Yeah. I actually did want to follow up on this one. So is there like a specific environment that you live in day to day in terms of your coding environment?
Yeah, I 100%, when I first started at Navy Federal, you know, I was an intern. I was completely in JavaScript and React, JavaScript, and I was doing some SQL, but primarily UI, it was just JavaScript essentially, React stuff. Once I got tagged on to working on this bigger project, I completely just do backend stuff. So I live and breathe in .NET framework. So nothing but C# programming essentially, and SQL as well.
Okay, very cool. All right, and I know you mentioned that you were an intern. So you did have an internship at Navy Federal before you graduated.
did.
Did you have any other internships, or was it just that one?
It was just that one essentially. I think I was beginning to, or was going to be a senior the next semester, and I realized I needed to get an internship. Not that you have to, but you know, it does help a little bit, especially with networking and stuff like that. So I applied to a couple different places. I had about 2 interviews, I think. I'd never professionally interviewed, so completely blew them out of the water. It was terrible, but lessons learned. Lessons learned, and then I got, of course, an internship at Navy Federal. It was a little more collected, more calm. Realized that, you know, life is okay, it'll go on. And I guess with that mentality and thought, I just kind of, this is what I know, this is what I can do, and that's about it. I was able to get that internship, and I guess I worked there for about a year, and then I went full time.
It sounds like you didn't have to search for too long in your case.
I did. Well, I did put in a good bit of applications to a couple different places. It's, you know, it's kind of you know, when you put in like 200, you know, not that that's what I did, but you know, when you put in all these applications and you hear back from like 2, you're like, oh crap.
It's hard.
I feel that.
Yeah, so you know, I got a little lucky with my internship. I really did. I actually, the way that I got my internship was I attended the UWF student fair, which I don't know if that's actually happening because of COVID and all that stuff, but
Probably virtual now. Yeah.
yeah. So I attended it twice. The first year I attended it, I did get an I got an internship interview with CGI. I'm sure most of you have heard of it or not. So that they're a Mobile. Was pretty solid on that, but I completely blew it. Like I said, I blew the internship interviews, or questions, everything. I got super nervous. Kicked myself in the butt because, you know, the moment I got in the car, I'm like, these are very simple. But like I said, lessons learned. And then I came back next year, you know, with my head held high, and I ran into Navy Federal, and they were looking for a developer, front-end developer, which I was intermediate at that point. UI is not my stuff. Backend is what I live and breathe, and that's just what I love to do. But I did get pretty lucky, and then my interview definitely went really well and kind of towards my end.
So
Yeah,
I
so
will
definitely-
take this chance just to plug our stuff real quick. We do plan on posting several events on how to actually interview and like improve your resume and stuff to apply to these things. So it probably won't save you from, you know, all your mistakes, but if you definitely want a little bit of a head start, we will hopefully be offering that soon.
That was a good segue, Brandon.
Yeah, no,
It
I
does
definitely
help.
think.
Oh,
Yeah.
so go ahead. It does help. Your resume most definitely helps. Not that it's the biggest thing in the world, but little teeny changes genuinely help. I actually went to the I think it's the career advisement, whatever.
Yeah.
They kind of shushed up and showed me a couple things, and when I went back the next time, there were things that they very much just noticed immediately that they told me they would notice, and then that was very much played well on my side. So yeah, definitely a good thing to do.
Cool. Well, that's kind of like leading into our next question, and that's like, if you're not able to get an internship, and I know you mentioned you don't have to have one, right? What do you recommend that a student does to try to make themselves stand out to break into the industry?
Right. Our industry it's really different, and it's so weird because it's not like being an accountant, or it's not like being a doctor or whatever, you know. Because anyone can go out there and be a developer. Like, you don't need a piece of paper that says you're a developer. Does it help? Most definitely, not all the time. You know, someone might want to see a Harvard degree or whatever. But from my lessons, and at least from what I learned, like both interviewing and just actually being like in the business, is that most, you know, the senior developers, the people who are hiring you, they just want to know that you have experience and you have the ethic to do the work and to put in the work and to keep learning. And the experience is like, you know, it's always everywhere. Like, we need 5 years of experience. We need 5 years of this. And no one genuinely has that when they first graduate. So if you don't have an internship, I think my biggest recommendation, and this is kind of what I did too, when I was almost graduating, is I just started building random stuff, random programs. I built a bunch of stuff on, you know, Java. I didn't want Java to just be on one thing, so I started looking into, like, you know, UI stuff, JavaScript. basic stuff. I mean, web chat applications, just a Java program that does whatever. And so I just put that out to my GitHub repository. And, when I went into my interviews, the latter interviews, of course, that is something that they very much notice, is the fact that, even though you don't have, this internship, or you don't have like, the recommended, like, whatever amount of experience, you've at least put yourself out there to, one, put the work in, and, actually have been in the developing world, and not just waiting to, twiddling your thumbs for when's my job going to come. So that's my recommendation. If I were to recommend, not that I'm a professional or anything, but I think going out there and just actually getting in, get your hands a little dirty, and just building applications, building random stuff, and just genuinely learning the backbone of developing, whether it's intermediate, advanced, or just beginner. I think that's what most, from what I learned at least, most companies are looking for. And I think, Nick, you can back me up, even at Navy Federal, like, you don't have to know everything when you come in. Very much willing to like teach you everything, but we want to know that you at least are in, you're at least have the fundamental skills, and you've pushed yourself to genuinely apply yourself to this realm of, like, this industry, at least.
Yeah.
Or whatever industry it is, whether it's finance, or whether it's, but at least in our world, computer science or software development.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, I think about the lead developer on our team, Josh Ferguson. He doesn't even have a computer science degree. It's like graphic design. I think, he's just he put the work in, and he learned it. And myself, like you said, like I had been doing JavaScript for a month when I interviewed for that position, for a JavaScript internship. So I think it's definitely it's about those foundational skills. It's about showing that you have a desire to learn and a desire to work on your skills as you grow, for sure.
That's the good thing about our career path, is that you don't have to rely on outside people to get experience like you might have to with, like, say, the medical field or other things. It's something that you can gain on your own if you need to.
Definitely.
Yep. Cool. All right. Okay. I love this question because there's always an interesting answer. I feel like, if you could give your freshman self advice, what would it be? If you could, go back in time and say, freshman Tony, do this, what would it be?
College does not teach you everything. College teaches you the basic fundamental skills that you need. And then it is up to you to apply yourself, especially, I would say, more in our realm, and at least in our world, or in our industry too, with computer science or software development. Yeah, you might learn a little bit here, or learn a little bit more at this college or not, but it really does give you the fundamental skills of our industry. And it's up to you to apply yourself, going forward. You go into college and you're studying computer science or software development. You learn the fundamental skills of object-oriented. You learn, all these algorithms. But when you come into the real world, you have this huge shock of, like, holy crap! Like, this is a lot more than what I bargained for. I think the advice that I would give myself is not to definitely, college is there for a reason, but definitely not fully rely on college, and you have to have some sort of self-appliance to this industry. Going out there and taking your own tutorials, pushing yourself to learn further intermediate levels of whatever you're already learning, because in the end, when you do start to look for internships, when you do start to get into the world, you're a little more prepared. Not that you have to be 100%, but you're a little more prepared, and you know what you're going into. And it definitely helps with just interviews, and just with not even just interviews, just jobs and stuff like that. I would say, do not rely on just college is here and it's my favorite and this is what's going to get me, at least for our world. I think I've heard that all across from I think all developers, because college does very much set you up for the fundamentals, and it's up to you to build upon those fundamentals.
Yeah, definitely. So talking about college, I was curious, was there anything that you any particular subject in your degree that you struggled with a little bit, or that you couldn't wrap your head around, or that you
when it came to like software development, or like computer science?
software, computer science, whether it was data structures or algorithms?
Yeah. I really loved the data structures. I loved algorithms, mainly because I had coffee and coffee was just amazing. I don't know if he still teaches. I think he does.
Yeah, he teaches it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Probably my biggest thing, I think, which is funny because it's all I work in now. When I started taking Dr. Eddie's class, which is more of my senior classes, and Dr. Eddie does an awesome, like, he pretty much really exposes you to like how the world actually works. It's not about the algorithms anymore, and it's not about just make this program do this. It's more about like, well, how do we genuinely generate a system to do this, this, and this? And it's all just completely taken apart and modularized. Coming into that from my classes before, I really had no idea like what were API systems. How should this system be completely broken down? What should function with what and what should do this? Not that it was a hard concept, but I wasn't fully aware of how do we make a system genuinely work like we want it to work and not break and be an actual system that's put into the world. Because again, I didn't know much about APIs. I didn't know anything about stuff. So I was kind of new into that. And definitely, I think I spent a lot of time just taking Udemy and YouTube, just kind of understanding all this stuff. Understanding APIs, understanding what the stuff actually meant. Security, cybersecurity, all that stuff, because it's easy to make a program, but it's a little harder to make a safe system and a reliable system. So not that it was hard to wrap my head around, it was harder to build something and genuinely understand this is how it worked, because I didn't know all the ins and outs of it. Not that I do now. I try to think that I do, but I don't. But I think that was the hardest part in college for me.
Yeah. I think system design is definitely hard for a lot of people. The software development lifecycle in general is a hard concept to really, like you said, when you can theorize about it and stuff like that, but actually experiencing it is a different thing. Especially in an enterprise like Navy Federal. It's a giant company with all these different moving parts. It's complicated for sure.
That's why I'm glad our classes, Dr. Eddie's class specifically, they give us that hands-on experience with the Scrum Agile process, Yep.
Yeah, Agile is huge. I think that, not saying that I do either, but I think very few people actually understand it, and even fewer companies that say they're Agile are actually Agile. So it's like trying to accept, that's what I've had to accept in my internship, in internship. It's just like, we say we're Agile, but there's systems in place that aren't really Agile, But let's see. Yeah, so what do you think teams and companies in general are looking for in applicants when they apply? Is it their computer? Is it their tech knowledge? Is it their personality?
I mean, I think it's a mix, but I think the one thing I believe, at least, that most companies look for is, it's your drive. You're actually, like I said, putting in the effort and actually willing to learn and sit down and, hands-on experience, whether you know something enough or not. But if you actually have that drive to learn and continue learning. Experience, obviously you want some experience on there, but just because you don't know something all the way does, I don't think companies completely want someone who's coming in, unless it's like saying some senior developer or whatever doing this and that. But I think the main thing that I've seen, that companies genuinely want is, again, that willingness to learn, the willingness to push yourself and to apply yourself to what you're doing. Personality is great, and it is, but I think in general it does come down to like, what do you know, and like how willing are you to push what you know, and are you willing to learn with what you know more than what just you're comfortable with. Because, and you can attest to this, even in our team, we very much have to push ourselves. We're a very full stack development team. I went from doing UI, being like a beginner, to being an intermediate, in UI, and then completely switching over to a back end, and just jumping into that realm. It was about 2-3 months, I think. I came home when I took over the system that we're working on now, and I took about, I think 5 courses. So I'd go to work for about 8-10 hours, and I'd come home and then study for about 3 hours, take courses. And that was an ongoing process for about 3 months. I genuinely slept for like 5 hours every day. But I knew that, this was needed, and not because, like I had to do this, I had very much the opportunity to say like, no, I don't want to do this, but, I was willing to push myself and actually learned this system, learned this framework. It was gruesome, not really, but it was a lot of work, but I was willing to put in the work, and it paid off in the end very well. So.
Yeah. Udemy is very big on our team for sure. Use it for a lot of, we have that one account I know that many people use on the team.
Yeah.
Now, were you doing that while you were in school, or was this after you graduated?
That was right after I graduated. That was maybe a month and a half after I graduated. 2 months.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, yeah. 2 months after I graduated, went in for 3 months of study.
Yeah. It never
was fun
right?
though. It was fun. I definitely got to learn a lot. Realize I don't know everything, and I definitely, when I say I'm intermediate, I'm like, wow, I'm really a beginner. But that's the fun of it. That's the fun of our world, I think. I love what I do, so it's fun to learn new stuff and genuinely understand new frameworks, and so.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that kind of like, we have a question similar. Yeah, like how do you balance that work-life schedule? Like, you're working 10 hours a day and then you're doing Udemy courses to enhance your work. How do you balance that?
I don't. Just kidding. No, it is kind of a reality for, I guess, our world. We do work a lot as developers. I think it's just a drive in all of us. If you genuinely, like developing or love developing or like, programming, it's just a drive. I'll be up at night. I'm just like, I really want to do this. I want to solve this. I really want to get this out of the way. But I've realized now, going full time and working a lot of hours, especially in the summer, I was working crazy hours. I think like 125 to 130 every 2 weeks. So like, I was, at one point I was like, all right, we need to step back. When there's like a downtime at work, not down because we never have down, but when there's time that I can genuinely just work my 8 hours, I'm gonna take that and go enjoy my evening. So I think it's kind of how do I balance it? I try my best.
Good answer. You said it was like a kind of just something that was common in our industry in software development. Do you think that's an expectation of your employer, or do you think that's just
no, I don't think so. Even with like our work, like our supervisor doesn't expect me to work 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day.
Sure.
But I do it because I want to develop things and I want to get them out there, and I want to make sure that we meet our deadlines, because we very much have deadlines, from our VPs or SVPs. And so there's something that I feel like, needs extensive work, that I'm going to work on it. Again, not that it's required of me to work, 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day. Those extensions are needed, extensions are given. But, it's more on my part that I want this out. I want it to be done and fully tested and fully, not that it's going to be 100%, as you've obviously seen some applications, but it's I want to make sure that it's a system that's going to work for our users at the end.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, this is our last serious question, quote unquote. What's the most important or useful part of your degree that you use as a professional?
With what I do, I would say Git is definitely a great part of your daily job. That's a hard question, actually. I don't know, think about it. Most important / useful part of my degree, I think the most important part was, to me at least, not understanding how deep level computer works, especially for a developer, depending on what you're going for, but for like a software developer at least, grasping the idea of how different languages actually work, what it means for a language to be object oriented, for what it means for a language not to be object oriented. How can we make us, and essentially one of the biggest things too that I think has been useful, and especially with our new ALA system, is how can we take a system and make it easily extensible, easily manageable. So those basic fundamentals things, that Eddie teaches you, that's probably the most useful part of, I think, of my degree, professionally at least. Within the last year, we've been working on this system. It's called the ALA system, which is the automated loan assignment system. And there was these 3 different systems essentially that did the same job, just for different processes, but they were essentially the same in the end. And so what we did is, well, how can we take these 3 systems that every time we have to build something else, we have to make a completely different system that parallels the way this works. And so we kind of just, took it, split it at the bone H end, and we took the skeleton and, we built upon that skeleton. We kind of modularized everything, just to make it extensible and manageable. And, now we're able to, put in as many systems as we want in there. I think in the past month, we've rolled out equity, which is a part of our mortgage department, within like a month, before it might have taken about three months maybe. Because again, we had to make an entire new system. But now we don't. Now we have, a system that is easily manageable and easily extensible. And so I think it's the biggest part that I learned, at least in school, that really helped me. Like, how can I take this system apart? And genuinely, how can I take the system apart?
Just period.
Or put it together,
Right.
So.
Right. So do you think that, with that said, do you think that the most important thing that you've learned was not part of your degree then? Or like the most fundamental skills that you have, or was not part of what you learned when you were a software engineer?
Well, I think they are part of my fundamental skills. It's more of, to me, like the most useful skills that I had, honestly, were just, specific classes that I genuinely got to understand. Okay. When building like, a project, like it's easy to build a website and make, and do whatever, and easy to make a little web application. But when it comes to like building like a system, for example, a couple of Dr. Eddie's classes, most definitely, helped in like, again, system architect and architecting, and just like, it makes you think a little more of, well, if I do this, how does it genuinely affect, every other system? How will this affect in the end? How is easier would it be to build upon that, or take from that, or change this? So, those object-oriented classes, those, system architect classes, those fundamental skills definitely play a huge part, at least in like, what I do with my day-to-day.
Sure. Okay. Awesome. Well, let's move into something a little more like, because we talked about Git earlier, and this one's interesting to me because I think this is funny given our team at Navy Federal, but do you prefer the command line or GitHub desktop?
So we're obviously we're not forced to use GitHub desktop, but we do use GitHub desktop. I find myself using the command line a little more, but that's only because I like to break things. No, GitHub desktop isn't too nice when you break things. So I find myself using the command line quite often, and just because I do use it often to kind of fix some errors or stuff, I kind of just use it to do the regular day-to-day push and pull and commits. But I do use command. I prefer command line interface just because there's so much more you can do with it. Obviously a little more robust, but I prefer command line interface.
Yeah, and I know Dr. Eddie would always harp on that. Like, he has a passionate hatred for GitHub desktop, so, or any kind of GUI involving the command line. So I like desktop. I like GitHub desktop. I know that that's an unpopular opinion, but it's definitely it's helped me a lot.
It's a great tool. I love the tool. I very much remember being in Dr. Eddie's class and just being completely shaming you for one. I'm just kidding, but it's a great tool, but it is very limited in some degrees, and it gets built upon every single day, but it is limiting to some certain degrees. And command line is it's just easier sometimes.
Yeah. And then the classic computer nerd question: Linux or Windows or Mac?
I'm not a Mac. I am definitely a Windows guy. Linux I do like. I've never really set up a Linux, a box on my computer or anything like that. But I do like Linux. I think I've set a couple virtual applications like Linux, but that's about it. But definitely a Windows guy.
Okay, yeah. I think
Complete Apple hater. So
complete Apple hater. Okay, I've never had a Mac. I don't know what that's like, but
And
yeah,
back in
it
high
feels very-
school, not to interrupt, but like
no, you're fine.
about Macs. Back in my high school, they used to give out MacBook Airs to all the students as like their school computer, which is crazy because they're these like $800,000 laptops, and they were giving them to these
Yeah, that's fancy.
jeez.
these high school kids who not to rag on them, but they didn't know what they were doing a lot of the time, and so that's how I had my experience with Mac, and I saw some crazy stories come from some of those MacBooks that the students had.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only had one professor use a Mac that I know of, and that was Dr. Fridge. I know Liam, you know who that is, but that's the only professor I've seen use a Mac on a regular basis. Okay, so 6:42. Tony, I want to ask you first. Is it okay if we look to the guests and see if see if they have any questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Oh, Bittner uses a Mac. Okay, I did not know that. So since we only have a few people here, if you guys have any questions, feel free to hop off of mute and ask if you want to, or just post it in the chat. Either way, if you do have any questions, I'll give you guys a second.
I had a question. First off, thanks for doing this. Super awesome. It's really opened my eyes a little bit. But I was just curious, what initially like interested you to do like software design? Like what was the one thing that said, hey, I wanted to do this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Well, like I said, I changed my degree and I didn't know what I was doing. And when I got into college, my very, very first semester at college was nothing but just complete general ed classes, like nothing. I mean, I took like a health class. I don't run, but I took a health class. I don't know what I was doing. And in the process of that, I just realized like this is an actual world and an actual like, because I would do stuff like this at home all the time. I'd make random websites or I'd like play around and like make random stuff, just like do whatever. And it always interested me a lot, but I didn't really know that it was an actual like job you could have. I mean, I did, but I didn't. To me, it was like cyber world. So when I got into college, I started looking into it. I looked at different, what computer science was and the different realms of computer science, because there very much is. So I was like, okay, bet. So I started the degree. I took a semester of it, and I completely was, I was like, I actually really like this. I enjoy this. It was a hard first semester, but I definitely enjoyed it. And so I kind of stuck with it. It looked like a job that I could, do, long term and actually thoroughly enjoy and keep growing on. So
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yeah, it looks like Colin posted a question in the chat. Let's see. Do you use Scrum or Agile development at Navy Federal?
So we try to be agile. We're slowly trying to make our way there. We're not really agile. We're a big company, and it's the banking world. So we're not really, we still have BRDs and all that good stuff, but we want to get to an agile development world. We just got a new manager in, and that's kind of his push, is where we want to be able to go to the business unit and just have like a 5-minute conversation of what is it that you need, what do we need to do, what are the requirements, take that back to our team, think about it and come back with this is what we can do, this is your this is in the timeline that we can provide you with, and add that to our our queue of projects or whatever. But yeah, we definitely work more on, it's a mix, honestly. It's more of a Scrum / Agile environment that we hold.
The desire is there for sure.
We very much talk to our users on the daily. I mean, I'm sure Nick can attest to this. Every single day, we talk to the business units every single day. If something breaks, which they very much will tell us, you know, we're there talking to them, and, you know, we provide a potential fix for them, or we provide, you know, an actual timeline for them. So it's a mix, a mix of Scrum and a mix of Agile, mix of waterfall, unfortunately, too, but.
Yeah, that's true. But we're getting there. It's like you said, we're getting there. I will say that what you will find, at least in my experience, is that managers love buzzwords, and Agile is a buzzword. So you will hear that thrown around a lot, whether it means anything or not, you know, when talking about Scrum or Agile. So were there any more questions? I mean, Brandon, Liam, you guys are welcome to ask a question if you have anything, if you're curious.
Yes, I know one thing that is like a big barrier for some students, especially when applying for actual career jobs, is like the suit. Do you think like renting a suit or buying one is worth it?
Personally, no. I don't think you need to go out there and rent, you know, $150 suit. You know, when I had my interviews, I think I went in with like a collar t-shirt, a button-up collar t-shirt, and like a tie, you know, some slacks, and that was it. I will lie, I did go out and actually buy some slacks. I didn't have slacks at the time. I don't think it's necessary, but it definitely is. It's a nice, it's a good look on it. You know, some managers will look at it as very professional, very. So I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think you should spend a lot of money on doing it, but I think, you know, definitely dressing up a little more than just coming with a t-shirt and some jeans is a little desirable there.
And that's what Argo's suit up is for.
Yep, I was gonna say it's this weekend actually. Definitely get you a suit virtually through JCPenney.
I missed that actually. I didn't know that was a thing. I had already missed the deadline by the time that it happened when I was doing
alumni can do it.
I've heard, yeah, I think Josh told me that. I think we can actually still go in and do all that.
Yeah. So that's actually what I did when I applied to Navy Federal. I had 3 interviews, 3 different teams, and I wore that suit that I bought from Argo Suit Up every single time. I was like, I have got to.
Every time I went to class, he was the best looking, man.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I wore it to class too. I was so happy with that suit. Cool. All right. Well, let's see. I think that was the last slide. Yeah. So Tony, really appreciate you doing this. Before we end it, did you have any final thoughts? Anything you wanted to say, Ian?
Me or
yeah, you.
not that I can think of.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming all you guys are seniors on here.
That's a good question.
The videos for everyone, or the whole Q&A.
Seniors, I think. Okay, so Colin's a senior. I don't know about Dakota. I know
I'm a forever senior. No, I'm a junior right now. I had to go back, so I'm a junior right now.
Gotcha. It's definitely, it's getting into the industry. It can be tough, or it can be, you know, easy. It depends on, you know. I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people think in our world too, like computer science and kind of overall, I've seen people get stressed about it, not getting a job and not getting an internship, and just genuinely, you know, worried. Which, I mean, you know, you should. You know, you're not getting a job, whatever. But I think one of the biggest mentalities that I kind of went in at first too, and I think I've seen people go in, is that they need to know everything, or they need to know all these different languages or all these different skills, which isn't the case. You know, especially in software development and computer science realm. I think the best thing to keep in mind is, one, your willingness to work in this world, because, or at least in this, like, you know, this environment that we're in, because it's every single day it's changing, and every single day you got to learn something new. Not that you have to, but, you know, you got to keep challenging yourself to really be up there and, you know, share your full potential. But I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is, you know, this is what I have, and this is what I can bring to the table, and this is what I can improve. And this is why, you know, I deserve this job. Not because I know everything, not because I'm the best at everything, but I'm definitely willing to learn and push myself towards that. That was kind of my mentality, and I think that really helped me kind of, you know, get where I am now.
Yeah, man, I enjoy your words. Thank you. That's awesome. it's nice to hear from somebody who's actually, you know, professionally doing it now and saying those kind of things, like giving you the heads up or the advice on moving forward. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I feel inadequate a lot of times. So I'm reading the chat here. A lot of times I don't know everything. Most definitely, I am not advanced in everything or, you know, one single subject. I'm genuinely learning every single day from, you know, whether it's from Josh, our lead developer, or manager, or just, you know, anyone on our team. There are just, I don't know everything, whether I'm well versed in something. There are just small things that I just simply don't know. I was setting up a authentication on a server today, and it just wasn't working. And I know like how to set up, you know, a server, you know, like the back of my hand, but I wasn't working. And so I messaged my developer, and he's like, "What did you do this?" And it was just a one-line configuration, and sure enough, the entire system worked. You know, and so like at that point, like I felt very inadequate, very like, but you know, you won't ever know everything. You know, you'll be versed in something or be a very intermediate or whatever, you know, something really well, but you don't have to know everything. As long as you're willing to learn and keep pushing, I think you'll be just fine.
Awesome. Well, if nobody has anything else, we can end it here. Tony, we're just going to talk about some ACM stuff, some stuff we have going on next week. You don't have to stick around for that, but we really appreciate you coming and doing this. I think everybody really appreciated that and got some really good insight from that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tony. This has been very good experience for all of us.
So send your invoice to Nick directly.
Right.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. I'll see you at work.
Have a good night.
See you, man.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming to our first Q&A session. That was pretty successful, I would say. Pretty awesome. We're going to do more of those throughout the semester, so please be on the lookout. Hopefully they will be as insightful as that. And we'll try to be diverse in who we bring in. So it's not just one single field, but we'll just have to see who can do it and what that's going to look like. I don't know, Liam or Brandon, if you want to talk about what we have going on next week.
Yeah, so starting next week, we're going to be doing a weekly LeetCode challenge. So what we're going to do is at the start of each week, we're going to post a random question from LeetCode. And if you don't know what LeetCode is, it's basically a website that contains a lot of coding interview questions. And, you know, a lot of these questions are ones that companies actually use, like these same exact questions at their interviews. So we're going to start posting a random question from it each week in our Discord chat. And then towards the end of the week at our meeting, we'll go over one of the solutions to it. And these problems have a wide variety of ways you could solve them. But so, you know, we can share the different solutions that people might come up with. So that's one thing we're going to do. And then we're also going to start doing our new resource spotlight series. It's basically going to be a part of the meeting where we talk about, say, like a textbook or a website or something that can help you get more experience and more career knowledge. And I believe we're actually going to start out by talking about LeetCode in general as a resource.
And similar websites that just offer coding problems for people to practice.
Yeah.
Yep. So that'll be the focus next week. Focus and guys, like the data structures and algorithms, as if you're going into software development, they're huge with these interviews. And Liam, you can really attest to this probably, as you've been doing some interviews with bigger companies. Like, you know, you're going to be doing that interview with American Express, but like the whiteboarding code interviews and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's just
some companies don't do them, but a lot do. Like I'm getting ready to interview for Citi along with American Express, and Citi doesn't really do whiteboard problems, but they do ask you for your knowledge on like fundamental development things. Like, okay, you say you know Angular on your resume. Tell me about like some basic, this basic thing about Angular, or you know. So not every company does whiteboard problems, but they do come up a lot. So it's very good to practice them.
Yeah, and we'll dive in deeper next week. But yeah, so we'll be posting throughout the week. when that's going to be. Pretty sure we talked about Thursday at 6 o'clock, same time next week is when we'll do that. And then afterwards, I think we said we were going to play Scribble.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
After our formal stuff for that meeting, we're going to be doing a game of Scribble, which is basically what would you compare it to? What's the board?
It's like
game?
charades, but with pictures.
Pictionary.
Yeah.
It's like an
Yeah,
online
Pictionary.
version of Pictionary. That's what it's
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you guys don't have anything else, really appreciate you guys coming to this meeting, guys. We in this virtual environment,
Mhm.
you see that we have something to offer you. Like we're having these Q&A sessions. Please come to the meetings. I think you'll learn something each week, and we can all kind of grow together.
Yeah, it really means
So-
a lot to us. So thank you for coming tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is awesome, guys. Thank you for
Mhm.
hosting it.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll have the
Absolutely.
video up on our YouTube channel by tonight, so we'll be able to share it with everybody.
Yep.
See you all next week. Thanks for coming.
Cool. Yeah. See you guys next week.
All right, have a good night, y'all.
All righty, see y'all.
See ya.
See ya.